Okay, so we just start, right? Would there be any like animation or?
I guess.
No. So okay. So hi everyone. Welcome to this panel. I don't know where to start, but firstly, let me introduce myself. I'm the host of this panel, and my name is Xia Jia. I'm a Chinese female science fiction writer, and I also do researches on contemporary Chinese science fiction, and I also give science fiction lectures at university. So science fiction is like both of my daytime job and my spare time hobby. It's very tricky. And today, so where's the music come from? Stanley or?
Yes, from me. I can.
Can you shut it down?
I couldn't.
Why? What happened there?
Yeah, because I'm in a restaurant, so it's not
Okay.
controlled by me, so I can mute.
Okay, so thank you for your cooperation. Okay, so today our topic is ARTIFICHINA, it's very tricky title, the way of data. It's big data, a new path to enlightenment or a stairway to algorithm hell. So just several hours before our panel starts, I asked Francisco Verso what's the meaning of this title, and he explained follow. He said that he hopes us to discuss the relationship between ancient way to achieve wisdom and knowledge, like traditional medicine, martial arts, Tai Chi, and contemporary technological ways like big data, artificial intelligence, augmented reality. So in other words, it's our discussion will be about the relationship between ancient Chinese ways and modern Western ways. So that's why he chose this tricky term data because the word data is mixed with the DAO spells or it can also spell as TAO Tao, which represents traditional Chinese wisdom. So it's like a word game. And so it's about our topic today. And later on, I want to ask our guests to introduce themselves one by one. And then you can just give a very brief introduction of your your work, your science fiction writing, and also where are you, these kind of things. So let's start with Zhang Fan.
Okay. Thanks for the host. I'm Zhang Fan. You can call me Fan. I'm a dean of Fishing Fortress Sci-Fi Center. And now I'm building the sci-fi colleges all over China. Yeah, that's all. Could you hear me?
Yes. It's my problem. I'm muting myself. So Zhang Fan is like the big secret boss of a chain of science fiction college, right? So he tried to like open up a series of science fiction college in different cities in China. So far we have like in the one in Chongqing and another one in Shanxi, right? So is there any others?
Yeah, the third is located in Shandong province, in Taishan Mountain, near the Taishan Mountain.
That is the hometown of Confucius.
Yeah, that's right. Totally right.
So thank you. So next, Stanley.
Hi, this is Stanley. Sorry for the music in the background, so it might be a little bit annoying. I'm a science fiction writer, and I now live in Shanghai. There will be a new book coming out in September the 14th. It's called AI 2041. published by Penguin Random House, so-called Authoring with Dr. Kai-Fu Lee. So there will be 10 stories and tech analysis around AI, which set in 10 different countries around the world. So yeah, looking forward to that and happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Maybe you can just type down the title of the book in the chat box, and which can give our audience a bit more information. And next, Ming, right?
Hi everyone, I'm Ming, and Ming is my pen name, so I also put my Chinese name here for English audience. I'm Congyun Gu, so Congyun is my Chinese name. I'm a science fiction writer from China, but currently I'm living in New York. So I'm in the early morning in the US time. I have been writing for like 5 years. Comparing to other people here, I'm a pretty new writer here, and I just got my first Italian collection. Actually, my first collection was in Italian, published by the Francisco Verso, the great publisher in Italian here. So my collection is called Colora il Mondo, which means colors the world in English. I will type in the title in the chat as well, and yeah, hope to talk to you guys.
Thank you. And I think you also have some of your stories translated into English, right?
Yes. For English, I have been published like 2 stories in English so far, and there will be another anthology. I think Xia Jia is the editor, co-editor with Neil Clark, the New Voices in China. It's a anthology powered by Clark's World, and it will be available later this year.
I don't know that.
Yeah, that is the target date. Yeah, I will also have a story there. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So next will be Tang Fei. Would you please?
Hi, thank you, Xia Jia, thank you, Francisco, and yeah, I'm a sci-fi writer. Beijing is my base, and yeah, my hometown is Shanghai. So this is my early morning too, because I often get up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, it's my early morning too. You can find my story in I am a member of so you can find my story in the Clark Water, Apex, and Paper Public, and the years sci-fi in the United States. Yeah, I published the Odd Cyborg, and the person who sees sitters, and you name the visitor. Yeah, the 3 books. So yes, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tang Fei.
I'm done. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. But I think your network is a bit not that stable. I don't know whether it's my problem, but later on, if you found any problem, you can try to like shut down your camera to make the network better. So let's begin the discussion of our topic. And to start this discussion, I think maybe problem we can start from to talk about our own experience. So maybe I want everyone to introduce a bit more of yourself. For example, your daytime job, your spare time hobby, your lifestyle, or even your educational background. How do each of you understand or feel interested in new technologies like artificial intelligence and such topics? And how much do you know or interested in traditional Chinese culture, like calligraphy, martial arts, or this kind of things, or like martial arts stories? So can you provide us some more further information? And who want to talk first? You can just raise your hand. That's very Chinese style. So how about start from Zhang Fan? You're muted. Sorry. Fan you're muted.
Oh, sorry. So we're talking about the Chinese traditional ways, or just the
Both of the
didn't follow your
topics.
point. Yeah, topic. Okay.
I think our generation just living a very modern life. So when we talk about like a modern technologies, but we just deal with all the technologies issues every day. Even though that we are like scholars in humanities, we still need to keep an eye on such topics. And on the in the other hand, in everyday you also have so many like topics or like news to talk about like a traditional Chinese culture. So how do you know, or how do you feel, or how do you interested in these topics? So that's my question.
Okay. I'm building the sci-fi colleges in Chongqing. It's a very a beautiful city. Here, I think when foreign countries focused on Chinese, they always thinking the Confucius or that. I think it's too much for China. So I want to push push the Vision Fortress Sci-Fi College to be more international team. And now we build a sci-fi team. We call the sci-fi center. We call that the Mark Polo Science Fiction Translation Center. It's really an international team, and we build the world-class sci-fi projects, just like the Vision Fortress Sci-Fi Awards, the Future Fiction Workshop, some kind of the clearing workshop in the United States, and we want to open the sci-fi film, the master class. I think to China. I think for China, we have the giant buildings, we have the advanced technologies, but we need to to more focused on the how to develop the humanity, the mind, the thinking into what we are living, the surroundings what we are living. I think that's very important for China now. So for lifestyle, it's not.
Are you living a like traditional Chinese old man lifestyle, like playing mahjong or drinking tea in your spare time?
Yeah. It's some kind of in Chongqing, in near Sichuan province. In here,
it's a very leisure city.
Almost everyone play mahjong, play chess, just like that. But maybe it's not so healthy way for living. This is just my personal opinion. I think when you travel in Sichuan province, in Chongqing city, you find the lifestyle is very slow. I think everyone are more happier than the people living in Beijing or Shanghai. But we need to change. But now the city, they are more they are changed into a modern city, maybe more modern than Beijing or Shanghai. So I think it's some kind of the problems for here. I like the speed of the living style here. I want to keep it, but the world is always changing. So yeah. So we are look for we may be just waiting for how the world changed. I want to share an interesting thing. I share an interesting thing for the audience. I built the Chongqing Sci-Fi College, Fishing Fortress Sci-Fi College, in the December 28th. December 28th in 2019. This is the last sci-fi activities in China. After that, in January of 2020, all the world changed. The coronavirus happened. So actually, we heard the last sci-fi activities in China. If we posted after that month, just like March in 2020, we'll never have these colleges. So this is really a sci-fi science fiction.
Yeah, that's maybe one of the most science fictional experience in your recent life, right?
Yes, it's totally changed my life.
Yeah. So thank you very much. It's very interesting. And speaking of Chongqing or other like inner cities of China, not just the inner city, but also like the big cities. I realized that many young generation people, they just enjoy life of like both. On one hand, they are doing like high technological jobs, but on the other hand, they do believe in some traditional Chinese things. For example, Yangsheng, like traditional Chinese medicine. And if someone got hurt in their body, they may prefers to go for Chinese massage to relieve or remove the humidity or the fire inside their body. So that's a very tricky thing for me. And I really feel interested to know your attitude about this. So can Stanley share me something, tell us something more about that, your attitude? Because I do know that you are a massage lover.
Right, I do massage every week no, not every day. That's called exercise. I think for 10 years, so that keeps me fit. So I wanted to respond to what you asked previously. So before, because I was born after the opening and reform of China in the 80s, and I was born in Guangdong province. So actually, the whole process, the whole environment in my childhood is quite westernized, and we absorb all this kind of technology and cultural products like movies, animations, and all this equipment are from the West. So in quite a period of time in my perception, I would say science and technology is everything. And like the traditional Chinese culture, like what we mentioned earlier, like Tai Chi and Taoism and some other martial arts, maybe just some old school stuff which might loved by our parents. They are older generation, but not for us. We love video games, we love animation, we love cartoon, we love Marvel, we love Star Wars and Star Treks. But I think it's changed in recent years, because I think right now you can see a lot of like new trends in China, like the younger generation, they start to finding their roots in culture back in the days. So I think a lot of people practicing Tai Chi and martial arts, and also dress up like the ancient Chinese, and also they start to study like I Ching and Dao De Jing for sure. And also like for me myself, I start to revisit all these classics after the pandemic occurs. So because I think there's definitely some very deep Eastern philosophical thinking about the relationship between human as a species with other species coexist in this planet. So I think for now, the climate change, the virus, the accelerationism we are confront actually is this, the shared challenge for every one of us on this planet. So I think that must be something useful and valuable from ancient Chinese culture, philosophy, and value we should learn from and we should leverage. So I think, but you couldn't just use your mind, your rationality, your intelligence to understand that. You have like practice, you have your embodiment, a connection to understand what is going on back in the day, because unless you're doing that, uh, you will not understand it at a very fundamental level. So I think that's something radically changed in the last 2 years on me. And I start to visit a lot of like minorities and join the rituals and have deeper understanding of how their thoughts on the relationship of the ecology and species and spiritualism. So I think that's totally something happening not only in China but all around the world, because we are about to enter a new age, uh, as like James Lovelock mentioned, we are about to getting close to the end of Anthropocene, and what is heading of us is Novacene, which might be dominant by silicon-based species like robots, or maybe even more advanced cyborg. So I think that's something we should think about, and we should use our storytelling to express in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Thanks for your answer. And I think it's also very deeply connected with my next question. But before that, we just continue this question, and I want to hear about from Ming. So you are living in the US, and you also write a lot of stories deal with like the artificial intelligence and ancient Chinese stories, right? So
yeah, I think it deeply linked to my own background, because I was born in China, and both of my parents are like Asian Chinese scholars or professors. So, but when I was young, when I was a kid, I'm still young. When I was a kid, I was brought to like science museums, and I read a lot of science fictions when I was a little girl. So, at that time, I already got myself exposed to both cultures. We know there are like something called two cultures: the culture of science, of the modern kind of technology, the culture of more humanity or social science or literature, or especially Asian literature. And for me, the two cultures are even more blended. I came from a very traditional kind of Asian Chinese literature kind of family background, but later on I chose to study science, especially computer science and artificial intelligence. So you can see I'm always crossing the bridges from east to west, from Asian Chinese to modern world, and from the technology field or from the literature field to the technology field. So I try to, all the stories I'm written, in all the stories, every story is literally, I try to make the bridge for the reader as well. So I think science fiction, especially science fiction stories, can be a bridge for people with different background, with different mindset, with different kind of knowledge to understand the other side of the world, no matter it is Eastern versus Western, or literature or traditional versus modern, or versus technology. So that is the one powerful, I think the most powerful powerful way for us to communicate to each other, because right now we can communicate to each other pretty easily. Like we can do this broadcast thing, we can tweet on Twitter, we can share Facebook post, but all those kind of short, like 114 character words or characters in Twitter cannot really explain how complicated our world is right now and how complicated or how different we are. So I think story is the more tolerant or more suitable kind of way for us to communicate, to build a bridge, especially science fiction stories. So in my books or in my stories, you can find that I try to use my own understanding, use my own background knowledge. I came from, right now I'm a programmer in Google, so I'm kind of an insider of the current modern technology. I want to use my kind of background to open the door for readers to understand, no matter, what side of the world they are, they can have a chance through a story, through an interesting story, to understand the other side of the world. So that is my way. And specifically, I think I'm pretty interested in the craft skills or some kind of specific domains in Asian China. So you can see in my stories, especially in the book of my recent Italian publication, I explain a little bit about Asian Chinese bamboo weaving skill, how it can be connected with the modern neural technology. And I also have an English story on Clark's World about like the Asian landscape or Asian Chinese garden designing skills, how it can be converted or it can be connected with the modern physics or modern mathematic kind of theory development. So that's my little effort to open the door, to build a bridge using science fiction.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really impressed by your stories dealing with craft skills like bamboo weaving. And I remember you also have another story about crafting swords, right? And I'm interested, have you ever tried to physically practice any of these skills, not just learning from the papers?
Yeah. I do study arts, painting, specifically from very early age. But yeah, and also I play some kind of Chinese instrumental. I play guzheng for about 6 or 7 years. But now it's nothing about professional level. It's just for fun. But I think the reason you teach some small kids about painting, about playing piano or any instrumental, is not to make them a professor or not to make them a pro of that, but just to open the door for their interest. And I think my parents actually did it very well. They didn't push me, so I gave it up very early, but I still keep an interest in it. So when I was older, I can still feel the happiness when I study it, not how hard it is, just to use it in my own story.
Yeah, that's very typical heritage from parents. We always try to escape from, but also thanks to. Okay, next, how about Tang Fei? What is about your idea?
I'd like introduce my new book. It's I don't see, you can see it. It's a collection of sci-fi short story. Many of
higher. Yes.
You can see it now. Yeah. Many of stories are about the post-human, and as the tradition. So when China is when we will talk about China is a country with many minorities. So when we tell about the traditions, we should consider those the minorities as well. The last story in the book about the conscious of uploading world where the minorities trace their history. The cover is very beautiful. There are 3 layers. Let me show it to you. Yeah, this is one. and this is 2. It is it's very, very beautiful, and this is the 3. Yeah, you can see it. I'd like to talk about the big data. Yeah, there's no question about the convenience the big data brings. We may be making decisions more easily as a result. In fact, it may be making the decisions. For example, which route to take to get the destination faster, which store to go to get the cheap stuff, and manage accordingly according to the distribution of mobile population in a city. Like every other tool in the history of human civilization that we have relied on too much, it has gradually taken over the part of race that we have unwittingly ceded. But I don't want to deny it wholesale. For example, the containment of the COVID outbreak. In China, outbreak controls is still done very successful. Part of the reason for this is relies on big data technology. With big data, we can do more accurate analysis of population movement, permanent population screening, and the distribution of vaccinated people. Yeah, we'll have a small program on cell phone called, I don't know how to say, health sport. Yeah. At first, I was a little resistant to it. But when the new infected people appeared in Beijing, I immediately felt the security that the app brought to me. I can know where it's safe and where to avoid going and out, especially since the government become more experienced in control this year. It was able to keep the median risk areas within a few buildings. There is also the fact and that once infected people appears, it can be used and traced where the infected person has been and found close contact as soon as possible, so that on one hand, the path of virus transmission can be cut off. And yeah, on the other hand, the potential infected person can be found as soon as possible and give them treatment to reduce the damage caused their virus to their bodies. Yeah, that's I think the big data is not, terrible something. That's all. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tang Fei. Speaking of the big data, it's also part of our topic today. Because I think the reason that we relate traditional Chinese cultures and big data is that we want to find some way to think about like the alternatives or way to criticize the modern way of thinking, right? And I also think that actually most of the time I believe that traditional Chinese culture like Tao or Confucius is more or less an imagined or reinvented concept that we use it to criticize the modern way of thinking. And I think one example I can think about is The Darkness of the Left Hand by Ursula Le Guin. And in that story, the alien people, they do not have fixed gender. And these people, they transform into male or female randomly, like yin and yang in Tai Chi. And sorry, and here I need to give you a pictorial-sized way to show that's how Taoism to understand this world, that everything just change and transform into another. So yin and yang is like this. So that's how Lagoon imagined gender can be in another way, except for the dominating way existing in the earth, in our culture, in our Western culture for many years. And but actually, we as Chinese people, we can hardly believe that sexual attitudes of Taoism in ancient China can be that free. But I still think that such imagination do help us to challenge masculinism. So my question is that, do you think that can be a practical way to do that? Or do you think that is like originalism or like a misunderstanding of China? And can you share maybe some more stories by other authors or by yourself with this topic? Like, how can we use traditional Chinese ideas as a way to challenge modern or Western way of thinking? So that's my next question. And who wants to start first? Raise your hand. Okay.
Yeah,
Second.
I can help first. So, so my way of thinking about technology, because I use a lot of traditional Chinese elements, especially history or some kind of technology, Asian Chinese technology, no matter it is like metal craft or jade craft or bamboo weaving. So my way of thinking of technology is trying to step back a little bit. If we are going to get confused with the current so rapidly developed technology like internet or social media or whatever, we just think about some kind of alternative, some kind of counterpart in Asian Chinese culture or the world culture, like what technology plays, what role the technology played in ancient time. And I use this kind of thinking method a lot to help myself understand what is actually happening now. So one example I recently used in my recent novella is like I'm thinking about the metal craft or the bronze making, the copper mine, like mining and bronze making in like 2000 BC. We know that both ancient Rome and China have a long history of metal crafting or using bronze. Bronze or like coppers can be used to make weapon or to make tools or houseware or a beautiful stuff for sacrificing or a lot of things like that. So it can lead to better life or it can lead to more wars or more conflicts between people. That is something I think that maybe something we are experiencing in parallel in the modern life, like the internet or social network. I know there are a lot of critiques around social network or the new modern technologies currently, because I'm actually working in this kind of company and I know that there are a lot of criticism around, but I'm trying to think about why the technology was invented for good purpose, but then it can be used in not that good purpose. It can be used like a weapon. So my way of thinking is to step back, is to think about what happened to the overall technology development in human history. And one observation I have here is like, even in the Bronze Age, in like 2000 BC, most people, they don't really understand, or they didn't really have the power of the bronze or the latest technology in that age, right? No, they cannot really use weapons. Our weapons are for rich people, for kings, for empires, not for like the ordinary people. So in ancient China, in my story, the copper mine, actually it was truly based on history. The copper mine and all those kind of craftsmen are used by the most powerful kings, and these are the critical resource for different kingdoms to fight for. Yeah, I think not the same, but it gives you some kind of idea like what technology actually is in today's situation as well. For for modern technology like internet or social network or whatever thing, ordinary people like us do have more access to the technology itself, and we can use it. But the real power in control of it is usually outside of our thinking. It can be the company or the algorithm, but by all means, all the algorithms are developed by company, by people like us, right? But we don't have really power of it. It probably defined by some higher kind of management, or like the influential people, on Twitter, on Facebook. They have more power using it, so it can create chaos, or it can make people feel connected. It all depends on which point of view you're entering, or which position you are in using technology. Are you used by the technology, or you are using the technology, or are you designing the technology? You are making the decision to set the technical direction of the technology. So to me, the technology thinking in this way, I think my conclusion, or not really conclusion, but my thought here is like technology brings its ability and potential to some result, but not the result itself. So once we have this kind of awareness, I think many chaos or many disorders, many bad things brought by the technology can be somehow relieved. We just need to let people think more deeply about what technology is, how it works, why it caused the current consequence. Of course, science fiction, especially science fiction with a very strong speculative past, can actually give us this kind of thinking power. Yeah, that is my kind of understanding.
Thank you. I think, and that's a very interesting example of like bronze tools, because I think in our we as modern people in a modern world, when we're talking about like a metal casting of ancient civilization, we're more like talking about, for example, technologies, the development of technologies, the power of nation, the military. But I think in ancient China, especially in Qing and Han Dynasty, bronze tools is more related to li, right? To ritual, to ceremony, to manners. So that's of course you can use a bronze sword to hurt some people, but when the decent people who use such swords, it's not represents the power of hurting, but the power of how to do manner, to things in a good manner. So that's a very different kind of way of thinking, and it really challenges our understanding of technology today. So thank you for sharing this this example. That's very good. And next, who will be the next? Because Stanley or Tang Fei or Zhang Fan? Stanley, do you want to?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Your word is darker and darker.
Yeah, so I can stop my camera. It's better. So yeah, so I think the term that science and technology were discussed about is actually just a newly coming concept in the last 400 years after the Renaissance and Enlightenment. So it's pretty westernized concept, but whether like and Joseph mentioned in his book, like whether there is and why there's no technology in science in ancient China. I think that's we should put a big question mark there, because what we're thinking about can be considered as science and technology actually was trapped in the framework of a Western conception. But maybe there'll be some alternative way to recognize and to understand and to explore the meaning and the mechanism of the word in another way, in another language, in another methodology and epistemology for sure. So I think, yeah. So for example, Ursula Le Guin, she wrote the Earth Sea series. Actually, got a lot of inspiration from Dao De Jing, and which she translated by herself. Even she didn't know any of the Chinese. So I think there's something very interesting because during the process of translation, actually, it might reveal some hidden structure of the knowledge. For example, like William Richer, the Germany Sino scholar, so Sinophone scholars. So he translated I Ching from Chinese into Germany, and later on be translated into English. So it's a very philosophical interpretation, which might resonate to me even more than the Chinese translation and interpretation nowadays in China. So I think that's totally something worth revisiting because nowadays we know our technology like AI, actually we're facing some huge challenges because like machine learning is a like self-enhancement process where you fed in data, it get you some outcome, but you didn't really know what's happening in between. So it's like a black box. So what I'm saying here is like maybe there's something beyond the current system of narrative as a science and technology, and maybe there's something there in the ancient Chinese or ancient Greek or ancient Africa that we can have them to be reinvent, rediscovery, and maybe there be something we can use and we can leverage to shape the new perception of the world. Because right now we know the world is not just black or white. It's not the subjectivity or objectivity. So actually, it's highly embedded and entangled together like a web. So that's how I understand Tao, because Tao is not means yin and yang, or like there's black or white, but without yin there's no yang, without black there is no white. So everything exists because the opposite of itself exists. So I think that's very fundamental thinking and fundamental philosophical way of perceiving the world. So, and I think Ursula Le Guin make a very good example, like how we can um, develop some interesting idea and very thought-provoking idea from this ancient philosophy. So of course we can do that again today, and it's more relevant and it's so important. So I'm doing that myself, and I'm also looking forward to discuss more with you. And for example, the ancestral temple in the box by me, published on Clark's World and also been translated into Italian by and published by Francesco. So I think that's a good example. So we discuss how this ritual, how this tradition be reinvented and transferred into another format of medium like VR and and AR and driven by artificial intelligence. So I think that's something pretty deep and also pretty inspiring for each one of us to think, because they're always something culturally rooted in our language, in our daily behavior, our rituals, our society structures there. But how to reconnect to them with our nowadays technology and with our language, with our narrative? So that's a big question. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. And you just mentioned about like machine learning. How about like the unextendable elements of this kind of artificial intelligence, and it also has something to do with my next question. That as far as we all know that artificial intelligence today, based on big data and machine learning is not yet that smart. And we all know many of kind of like jokes and memes about that. And maybe you can share some of the funny stories you have experienced by yourself in your everyday life about that. And also I want you to share about your own imagination of AI in the next maybe 20 or 30 years. What kind of breakthrough you expect to see in which kind of fields? For example, education, medicine, delivery, decision making, this kind of thing. And I want all of you to share your expectation and maybe complaints of your complaints about current AI and your expectation of future AI. So that's my next question. And who wants to be the first? Maybe we can start from other people like Tang Fei.
I have nothing to talk about on this topic. Yeah.
So you're fully satisfied with good enough. Okay, so how about Zhang Fan?
Sure. Let me change the the mobile phone. Yeah, sure. So talking about the Tao, I'm actually some kind of the traditional Chinese. For my own life, I played guqin. It's a Chinese traditional instrument, and I play weiqi. English is Go. It's some kind of the Chinese chess. So it's very kind of the the just the yin and yang, the black stone and the white stone. It's very similar about the UK League Win, the Naur. But so this is my I think this is a very difficult question to answer, because I think although I'm so loving play guqin and play Go, but I think this is Chinese traditional ways is too stable, and I think this kind of the arts, if you can say it's they are arts, they are totally dead and no development. So that's a problem. No creativity. The soil for these arts is totally dead in modern words. So although I'm a very traditional Chinese, but I do the research of science fiction. So just let me say, all these arts, just like Go, guqin, guzheng, you can you can see one. So it's too harmony for you. They can spend all your life for doing these arts. Mm-hmm. But I want the unstable world. I want to be an unstable person. So I want to find some new creativity in my humanity. So I need to science fiction. So in my usual life, I play Go, play guqin, but I do research science fiction. So this is two ways for me. And just like the Go and the AlphaGo, all one knows AlphaGo is AI. We enter into AI, and almost all the professional Go player. If you guess, because the AlphaGo is more better than all the professional Go's, even in Ke Jie, it's a top professional Go player. So this is a problem. So the Chinese traditional ways, in Western worlds, they always want to talk about the Chinese harmony way, but actually in China, they are dead. So that's a problem. The spirit of the Chinese traditional way is dead, and no surrounding for supports these arts because we can't see the future. So, but I think maybe some, there is some leverage from this Chinese traditional way. We can find some spirits to enter into the new worlds, just like climate change. Because in China, we writing the traditional poems. We always talking about the nature. The nature is the climate change. So the climate change is a top element of the modern science fictions. So we are thinking about the world. We want to be, so the world is from the harmony world to be a confused world, and it needed to be a new harmony world again. So maybe this is some we can find some interests elements from the traditional culture. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Zhang Fan. So, do you think that the victory of AlphaGo implies, for example, the destruction of the enjoyment of playing Go for the Go players in China? Or do you call it like the up? Yeah.
Yeah, just actually, before the AlphaGo, we realized that the AlphaGo, we play Go in a lot of ways. But now, when two professional players goes, they play chess. They are totally no interest about it, because they recite all the steps. They're learning from the AlphaGos. They are like machines. So that's a problem. Even me, when for now I don't to request some higher level player Go to teach me, because I have AlphaGo. I have the AI. So I just need to put my chess map to our AI, and he can give me feedbacks. All the feedbacks. They are more professional than professional Go players. So this is a problem. This is a problem. The game is over. This is a problem.
Yeah, that's a very challenging opinion. And what's problematic is that even though that we all know that artificial intelligence right now is not smart enough, but it's already too powerful, and seems like we have no way to escape from the trap it sets. That we have no other way to go, and it already distracted most of our enjoyments of like playing golf or like doing our art performance. But we know that we can, there's something else from the technological methods, but when we know that it's much higher, it's much more powerful than us, we already just give up to fight against. So that's a very dark future you imagined. And so how about other people? Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
Moving, I'm moving. Yeah.
I just want to talk a little bit about the artificial intelligence, or the so-called dark future here, because I work for this for not especially on artificial intelligence, but also other like VR and AR technology for quite a long time. And I think one kind of misunderstanding here is like we try to treat the algorithm or the technology as a black box, as like machine can control everything. But actually,
It's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. So we need to keep in mind that all technology or all the scary kind of algorithm are designed by human like us, human like me, like you. These are all designed by human, even though it can be, if you saw the Netflix documentary, the social dilemma, it can be something that looks scary, like out of control. There are still a lot of things people can do. So, for example, I just want to bring one specific point I got from NeurIPS. NeurIPS is the top layer artificial intelligence conference. All scholars and researchers went there every year. And I think I went there like 2019. And there are a lot of talks from scholars, from researchers, asking the current industry, leaders or industry workers about the awareness of how the bias can be introduced into the algorithm. For example, we can see like for the image recognition, the most popular example here, like we try to use artificial intelligence to tell who is a woman here, a man here, or things like that. A kid here or an older man here from the image. Artificial intelligence can definitely do it, but we need to know how it can do it. It can do it because we feed them a lot of pictures with text. With pictures saying, okay, this is a woman, this is a woman, this is a man, and this is a monkey, something like that. So we can see artificial intelligence is not something raised from dark. It's something like our own child. We raise it by our information, by the information human, especially researchers and engineers provided. So it's really important how we provide them the information, right? So one example here is like, I think some kind of medical researcher told us they are using machine intelligence and deep learning to get some results on medical research. But later on, they found their samples are highly biased because all the sample they acquired from like a male group. So it doesn't really apply to the female kind of female patients. So that is one thing, right? You can see that we are all seeing like female writers or female researchers or whatever are ignored in the human world, but later on it can be ignored in the artificial intelligence world. But this can be fixed. This is not like, okay, artificial intelligence is all over us and we cannot really control it. We can fix as long as people, especially people in the industry, people are doing the child raising or AI raising kind of jobs. They need to be aware of this kind of ignorance or this kind of bias. So I think here, especially because I feel, writing science fiction, for me, part of my reason for writing it is my kind of social responsibility. I need to let people know that, okay, we can do things. Although things look out of control, things look like in a black box, behind the scenes, it's all people making the decision point. We just cannot blame artificial intelligence for, why you're making a bad future for us. It's not their fault, it's our fault. And we can fix it from now on, from the very beginning, as long as there are more people aware of that, as long as we are using stories or whatever kind of communications for the whole society and for the people working in it, for the people using the technology to know that what is the role technology or specifically artificial intelligence plays and how the decision was made. I think it still can be fixed. No need to be too scared about that. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Thank you. It just came to me that I have read a very interesting research paper on how to train the artificial intelligence to recognize the pictures of criminals. So they just feed the picture, just as you said, they feed the pictures and tag them, but tag the part of them as criminals and the part of them as normal people or ordinary people. And the outcome is just astounding that the AI can be trained as precise as possible to recognize most of the pictures of the criminals. But I think the question behind that is why these people be tagged as criminals and why they are pictured as images which looks just like criminals. So our bias is just hide behind all of these pictures, and we should pay more attention about that. So thank you for your sharing. And I think we still have time. And next question is from Francisco, and I need to give this question. So he is, let me see, where is the question? Yeah, he just wants to know, and I think it must also be the questions many people interested in, that how is a situation with Chinese science fiction conventions? Because we used to have like no real conventions, but just like some meetings of authors. But right now, every year we can have several conventions, and also we try to bid for Chengdu WorldCon. And how is the bid going? Because we are bid for the WorldCon 2023, and which will be voted, I think, later this year. And so can anybody just share with us some of the information about that? Because I really do not know much of the progress of this situation in recent years. So can Zhang Fan, can you introduce a bit about these conventions? You are muted.
Yes, maybe I can share some information about the my own conventions. Because we build our Vision Fortress Sci-Fi College here. The main point, we are focused on hold conventions every much times every 1 year. Just like maybe in this December, we'll hold a Vision Fortress Sci-Fi Convention and Carnival. It's a top sci-fi event with over 3,000 people attending just this event in December this year. But my confusion and I'm a little worried about the situations, because this is a world changed by the coronavirus. So if we find some people, maybe not so unlucky, maybe the event maybe disappeared. So this is a problem in Chinese. We are be strict with the so we are always to we want to hold the conventions, but we need to get the approval from the government. So this is the giant problem we need to face. And in China, we I think if permitted, every week we have conventions. I think we are I think maybe more. We are much more conventions than United States and Europe, if we permit it. So I look forward, maybe next year we can hold a lot of conventions here. Especially, I want to invite international guests to come to China. The Indian sci-fi groups, the Japanese sci-fi groups, the Europe sci-fi groups, the Argentina sci-fi groups. We want to do that. The only problem is the coronavirus. I even prepared all the monies, all the peoples. I want to do that. So yeah, so maybe let's look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. The bad news is that we still have no idea what will be the how the minus would be going on. But the good news is sounds like that we do not need to worry about the funds, about the money, right? We already collect enough money to do all of these projects. That's great. And We also have. What's wrong with my voice? Because I can hear echoes. Okay, so we also have some feedbacks from the audience that Steph Tourist says that there needs to be a framework to critically examine who benefits and who loses when technology doesn't perform according to its original design intent, so that we can unearth programmatic biases. So that's feedback to our previous question. And yes, that's it. Thank you very much. And also we have some very good questions from the audience. And one of the questions is that, let me see. I can't remember. It's from Snowflower, right? Yoshi asks that, is a Dao more linked in fiction to Chinese fantasy, or in other words, 玄幻, 仙侠 or 玄幻? It's like Chinese swords or martial arts fantasy, or can it really be part of science fiction? So I think that's a very interesting question. And maybe the best one to answer this question is Ming, but can you try to can you say something about that? Because you stories about like this halfly science fiction, halfly fantasy, Chinese traditional fantasy, right?
I think I was trying to answer the framework question. So anyway, I need to go a little bit earlier. Sorry about that. So I will try to talk as much as I can and trying to be concise as well. So I just want to comment a little bit on the we had a comment in the panel about we need a framework about to examine what the technology are designed for good and who benefit from it and who else maybe get impact. So that's a very good thought. But in the reality, usually the regulation is usually much slower than the product or the industry get developed. I think one very important example here, and most people in Italy will know, is the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. So this is to everyone knows that this is aiming at big companies like Google or Facebook or Apple, whoever, that use people's users' privacy data, for example, your cookie, when you browse the website or whatever, without the permission. And recently, I think in 2018, around that time, we have this kind of GDPR, this kind of regulation. So all the big tech companies, we are actually trying to fix the things. But before that, about 10 years, big companies we are already using this kind of data to show ads, to show the marketing, targeting, things like that. And the regulation is like 10 years behind. So that is why I saw the gap here, the emergency or the urgency here of us to telling the story, because the regulation will not be a thing unless there is enough profit, enough impact already showed to the society. So that is always a gap. Thinking about the thing happens before, like in the history, it's all the same. So technology, especially the emerging technology, knowledge is always step further and goes further and goes quicker than the regulation can go. The regulators need to pay attention, need to react faster as well. But the reality is like mostly they won't be too quick, and the framework won't be there until a very long time, and much impact has already been there. So that is why one reason for us to tell stories as well. Because stories, we really don't need that too much complicated kind of battles or lawsuit or whatever. We just tell our observation, our thinking, and we can make people up the awareness of people come earlier than the regulation. And the question about Dao and the xianxia or fantasy, for me, I tend to use the word speculative rather than science fiction, because for me, it's all about the way of thinking. So I want to use some kind of unreal kind of elements to tell people what happens in the Asian Chinese, especially in Asian China culture, how the Asian technology, although it's not the pure real real Asian technology, but it can be some kind of way of thinking. So for me, there is not the too much difference between how ancient philosopher like Zhuangzi or Dao they think about the world, or how people like a scientist in the near future or in the far future in the science fiction world think about the world. The way is like I want to link those two. So I can definitely bring a lot from the Asian Chinese history, but different authors have their different writers. They have their own kind of opinion of what the ancient way of thinking plays in the current technologies world. So yeah, I think this is more like a writing kind of writer-specific question. For me, I can definitely link them too. And I just want to say thank you guys, and you can definitely find me on my website. And I need to go earlier, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of the talk. See you guys.
Thank you, Ming. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Ciao. Because Stanley also have something, and he already left earlier, but we still have like several minutes left. And let me see. Yeah, thanks to Snowflower. Here's a reminder from Snowflower says that Chengdu 2023 needs to have voters in the DISCON 3 December WorldCon. It's possible to vote as regular attendee, but also as virtual or only supporting member. Thank you very much. So please vote to Chengdu.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also for that question about Taoism and fantasy, it just came to me another very interesting example, a short story published in 1990s, and which used to be one of my favorite stories when I was a kid. And the title of that story is 演师传说, can be translated as the legend of 演师, and 演师 is a name of an ancient legendary craftsman. And so in ancient historical book, there used to be a legend that the 演师 invented a robot, and he gave this robot to an emperor, and he showed the emperor how the robot works. So this can be counted as the very early, very first robot story in traditional Chinese literature. And the author of that story, Pan Haitian, who rewrote that story in a very interesting style, very Calvino style, like very Western style to rewrite an ancient Chinese story. And in his version of the story, the emperor, he wants to amuse his favorite concubine. So he set up like a competition that he invites all of these craftspeople to show their abilities, so to show their magical performance to the concubine and see who can amuse that concubine in the best way. And during this competition, many like magicians from different cultures came and showed their magical performance. But at the end of the competition, a mysterious man in black shows up, and he is 演师, and he told the emperor that he's a time traveler. He travels from the future, and he shows up. He just showed his robot, and the robot can dance, can sing, and it can even flirt with the concubine, makes the concubine feel have like a feeling of crush into that robot. But I feel what feels interesting here is that at the end of the competition, the emperor praised the robot, and he said that your performance is the most magical thing I have ever seen in my lifetime, and that's so amazing. But the man in black said that I traveled into different periods of time all around the world. But right now, when I'm here to see the magical performance by other magicians, I found that I have lost the way of, how to say, to making real amazing things, because we, as modern people, we are just too much depends on the modern technologies, and we are so get used of this technologies, as for example robots, and we just stop have the feeling of wonder to that. And because here I'm here to try to refine, to rehearse the ability to arouse the sense of wonder from these ancient musicians. So I think that story is kind of like a, I don't know how to say, like a meta science fiction or meta fantasy or meta storytelling, because I think that the author Pan, who tries to express his own idea about storytelling through this story, he wants to show that we can still find way of telling amazing stories from those ancient memories, those ancient ancient way of narration. So that's the most amazing part of that story, and which impressed me for many years. Proto science fiction, yeah, that's a very good way to describe this kind of science story. And does Zhang Fan or Tang Fei have any other idea about this question or the previous questions? Do you want to add more about that? Tang Fei, do you want to talk more? Because I think many of your story is more like fantasy stories, right? Hi, are you muted? I cannot hear you. Tang Fei? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So how about Fan Ge?
Yes, I think I may recommend a short story from the Chinese sci-fi writer, the Zhang Ran. Zhang Ran. He has a story. He's writing about the Chinese ancient people, how to invest, how to build the computer 1,000 years ago. But no, it's a long story, so I don't want to translate it. So I just want to recommend to you. I think the title of the story is 3 Feet Snow in Jingyang City. Actually it's Taiyuan in Shanxi province. So it's a very good story. I think maybe you can find the story maybe in Francisco's future fiction. If not, I need to remind it to Francisco to publish it. It's really a good story. 1,000 years ago, to find a way to build the computer, to real computer. So it's a very smart idea about it. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think someone asked, could you write in the title of the story here in Chinese?
Sure.
Yes, 晋阳三尺雪. And let me check if is there any other questions or comments? Okay, so Francisco reminds me that you can wrap up and close the panel. Okay, thank you. So to end up our wonderful panel, I just want to give great big thanks to Francisco, to Future Fiction, to all of our lovely guests today, even though two of them already left and cannot just stick to in the end. But it's a wonderful panel, and we really explored a bit lot deeply into this tricky topic, and I also I also as a host, I need to invite the audience to subscribe to the YouTube channel, to join the conversation later on Discord, and to subscribe to our, not our, but Future Fiction's New Stellar, Future Con's New Stellar, and to support Future Con. And all the links are already in the video description. And so in the end, I want to invite our guests to say the final words to our audience. You can to talk about like your future plan, or just say goodbye to the audience. So just we just one by one to start from Tang Fei.
Just a person. It's easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
The lady first, I think.
Yeah, Tang Fei.
Yeah, I'm self writer, so I continue to writing my novel. Yeah, I have a novel, and I novelette. Yeah, just to go on writing. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, and goodbye.
Goodbye. And go to sleep. Oh no, it's your early morning, so you can.
Yeah, it's my early morning.
Yes. Okay. So how about Zhang Fan?
Yeah, for those friends, for those international friends, long time no see. Yeah. So I want to meet you in reality in next year after the I hope the coronavirus so yeah maybe disappeared, or better the surroundings the better. So I want to meet you in reality, not online. Yeah, I want to meet you, all the friends, all the international friends, to China, come here in Chongqing, in Fishing Fortress Science Fiction College. Thank you.
See you in Chongqing.
Yeah, could you provide like your way of connection or communication to the audience if they want to go to China and they want to use your money to make that travel happen?
Sure. I have my Facebook. You can just or my Instagram.
Yes.
Fan. If you have the account of the Francisco, you can find me. Yeah, just check his account.
Okay, that would be great. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for all the audience. Don't forget to vote to Chengdu. And if you want to come to China, especially want to go to Chongqing, just remember to contact with Zhang Fan. And I hope all of you have a very nice, beautiful day or night. And I hope to see you soon, very soon in China or elsewhere in this world. So bye bye, ciao.
Bye bye.
再见，再见，
再见。
再见。